Welcome back to this fingraphs.com market overview in cooperation with Dukascopy TV. I'm Jean-Francois Owczarczak, Managing Director at fingraphs.com. We are back on our fingraphs.com website. Last time we were here 2 weeks ago, we were saying that the euro was going to resume its downtrend, that gold was holding but would probably follow suit, and that the equity markets were well positioned to continue their uptrend. Today we're going to have a look at euro-dollar, at dollar-yen, gold, and the S&P futures. So let's start with the euro-dollar on this investor's view, which is a combination of a weekly chart, 1 point every week for the perspective over the next few quarters, a daily chart, 1 point every day for the perspective over the next few months, and an hourly chart, 1 point every hour for the perspective over the next few weeks. Now all three trends are heading down, they're in a bear, and so that translates into a situation which we call a potential continuous downtrend. The longer term weekly chart is still heading lower and could reach parity over the next few quarters, as our targets are saying here. And the risk index, which was oversold earlier this year, did bounce back and seem to be repositioning itself to the downside. The daily chart is also still in a downtrend, and the potential targets also point to a pretty much parity or even a bit lower, and that over the next few months. The risk index is still pretty much in the middle of the range, so still has some space to fall. The daily chart, or the hourly chart, so the shorter term chart, is still heading lower. It has reached its objectives and is already pretty much oversold. We would expect a small bounce here, but in essence, we would believe the daily trend is still quite strong to the downside. So we don't expect too much of a bounce. We would put our stop losses to the upside a bit above this consolidation here, so in the direction of 109, 109.50. Now today we're also going to look at dollar-yen. Dollar-yen has initiated or reinitiated its uptrend on all three frequencies. This is still an investor's view, so a weekly chart, a daily chart, and an hourly chart. The weekly chart is still heading up, and in our impulsive 2 targets, which are quite aggressive targets, we could make it up above 130 over the next few quarters. Now the daily chart has finished its consolidation. You can see the risk index, which went really low here into the oversold and is now moving up again. We expect that over the next few months it could reach back above 125, which would be new highs, and up to pretty much 128. On the hourly chart, we have been accelerating up over the next week or so. The impulsive targets are pretty much done. The risk index is overbought, so you could expect a bit of consolidation here, yet the envelopes are still heading quite aggressively up, so we would expect that following that consolidation we could continue the uptrend. Now moving on to gold. Gold has 3 bears, so it's a potential continuous downtrend. Its long-term chart is still heading lower, still has some space to move lower, down to possibly below 1,000 over the next few quarters. The daily chart similarly is also heading lower, possibly into the 1040 level over the next few months, and you still have some exaggeration to be seen on the risk index, so you could still move lower. And on the hourly chart, even over the next few weeks, you still have some potential down. You're not quite in oversold yet. So the move doesn't seem quite over yet. Finally, with the S&P. So the S&P is still in 3 bulls, so potential continuous uptrend. The weekly has pretty much exhausted its impulsive potential, so it's an expensive bull, but it's still a bull. It has corrected down, seen its consolidation, and now it's moving back up. The daily has made it back down into oversold territory back in August and September, is now moving higher, is not yet oversold or overbought, sorry, and still has some potential to make it above 2146, possibly into the 2200 area over the next few months. Finally, the hourly has pretty much exhausted its impulsive 2 targets. We could expect a bit of work over the next week or so, but in general we would still believe the daily still has some potential and would still be positive on the S&P. So we've had strong move last weeks. We believe there is a continuation trade to be seen on the euro, on gold, as well as on equity markets. Thank you very much.